Before this video starts, if you enjoyed this video, there are many more like it on the channel already, with many more like it to come in the future, so subscribe. I'm trying to hit 100,000 subscribers by the end of the year, so I'd really appreciate it. Also, drop a like on this video as it helps it perform in YouTube's algorithm. I appreciate that as well. Today, in the newest installment of Trades Revisited, we're looking at the Paul George / Victor Oladipo / Domantas Sabonis trade. Back in the summer of 2017, after a few disappointing years of mediocrity in Indiana after coming back from injury, Paul George finally asked for a trade after a couple of years of fans expecting him to do so. He wanted to go to Los Angeles to play for the Lakers. However, he was shockingly traded to the OKC Thunder in exchange for Victor Oladipo and Domantas Sabonis. This deal at the time was clowned on like crazy. From everything we had heard, the Pacers had better offers from the Cleveland Cavaliers, Boston Celtics, and obviously the Los Angeles Lakers. Now, PG on the Thunder didn't necessarily work out. He did give them an MVP level season, ending up third in voting, but also losing in the first round twice. However, the assets that the Thunder got back in the next Paul George trade have panned out quite well. Looking at recent history, this is possibly the most win-win trade we have seen in a long while. The Pacers got back 2 All-Stars, and OKC got back multiple firsts and a young star in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. So let's look back at this trade and basically say congrats to OKC and Indiana. Let's look at the Pacers side of this deal first, as they did not trade what they got back later on, and also just because I find the case of Victor Oladipo to be very interesting. Oladipo, in the offseason that this trade happened, really committed himself to improvement. He lost a lot of weight, got in the best shape of his career, worked on rounding out his game, and he came into the year as one of the 20 best players in the NBA after previously being a disappointment both in OKC and Orlando. He came into the season with a well-rounded offensive game and heading to an organization with a new change of scenery, looking for a new direction. Oladipo shined. He averaged 23 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists, and a league-high 2.4 steals a game while shooting 48% from the field and hitting 37% of his 6 threes a game, many of them coming off of the dribble, not the standard catch-and-shoots he was previously getting earlier in his career, with an overall 58% true shooting percentage. He won Most Improved Player because of these averages that, by the way, I predicted in this old-ass video that I made on the trade at the time it happened. Oladipo throughout his career has been put into a lot of bad situations. He's been an on and off ball player, a playmaker or a scorer, a defender or a shot creator, and after being traded to the Thunder, a shooter for Westbrook, which is not what he is. Now, I think with the Pacers, he will be handling the ball a lot, and I could see him averaging 20 points and 5 assists. Please don't go back and watch that video because 1, it sucked, and 2, I basically cherry-picked the only thing that I got right in that video, because I predicted Miles Turner would average 20 and 10, called Sabonis an okay young player, and also said that the Pacers would be competing for the first pick in the draft, which did not happen. They made the playoffs, and we'll talk about that later. But before we talk about that, let's first talk about where Oladipo's career has gone since, and why Domantas Sabonis is more than just an okay young player. The one concern with this deal is that after the season where Oladipo had basically a fairy tale year, he has either been disappointing or injured. Mostly injured. He had a pretty severe statistical drop-off in the 2018-19 season, averaging nearly 5 less points while shooting 6% worse from the field and 3% worse from 3, with a 52% true shooting percentage, a 5% drop-off from his first season in Indiana. Now, this could be viewed as just a slow start, or it could be viewed as the first year in Indiana just being a fluke. But before Oladipo had a chance to prove either of those narratives right or wrong, he had a season-ending injury that he was only just now getting back from before the Roni shut down the NBA season. He has not played well in the 13 games that he's been back, but he has also not played basketball in a year, so that's more than excusable. So the future remains uncertain, but at the very least, The Indiana Pacers got one great season out of him where he led the Pacers to a Game 7 versus LeBron James and the Cleveland Cavaliers. But let's talk about the guy who does not have an uncertain future, and that is Domantas Sabonis. In his first year in Indiana, Sabonis was instantly better than he was in OKC, mostly because he was utilized correctly. Not as a stretch 4, but as an inside 5 who would just occasionally shoot a mid-range shot. He averaged 11 and 8 off of the bench for the Pacers, shooting 51% while also getting 2 assists per game. Next year, he'd jump up to 14, 9, and 3 on 59% shooting. And this year, he has made the All-Star team with averages of 19 points, 12 rebounds, and 5 assists, shooting 54% from the field. Sabonis has a good mid-range jumper, a good floater and hook game. He's good in the post. He's good in the pick and roll. He's one of the best passing big men in basketball, averaging 5 assists per game. He is not a good defensive player, but offensively, he does everything besides for knockdown threes. Now, I still don't think he should have been an All-Star over Zach LaVine, but I've gotten over that. Overall, that's 2 players who have made an all-star team in exchange for a guy who was on a 1-year deal and explicitly said he wanted to go to the Lakers. It's hard to get a good return under those circumstances, but the Pacers managed to pull that off. Now let's look at OKC. I don't want to put too much focus on what Paul George did while he was with the Thunder, because at the end of the day, 2 first-round exits in a series that they were arguably favored in, especially the one in 2018, is basically a waste. So I guess we can view this as revisiting both of the Paul George trades. However, I'm not really going to be looking at the Clippers angle of this because there isn't much to say there. But the Thunder, when they traded Paul George, got Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Danilo Gallinari, and multiple first-round picks. Let's start with the young dude that they got back. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is amazing. Alright, end of the video. Okay, for real now. My take that Markkanen is the better young prospect definitely has not aged well because Shai has been great this year, though I do think an actual competent coach would muddy those waters a bit more. But after a good rookie year in Los Angeles, in his second year now with the Thunder, he has averaged 19 points, 6 rebounds, and 3 assists on 47% shooting from the field and 35% from 3, playing what I believe his natural position to be, which is shooting guard. With the guidance of CP3, Shai has taken his size and length as well as his smoothness and turned himself into a pretty damn good scorer. He has a great mid-range and floater game, which is really important for guards to have. He shoots 50% from mid-range, which is incredibly efficient, with 20% of his shots coming from there, making him one of the best mid-range shooters in the league. He also shoots 42% from floater range, which isn't great, but it's certainly good. The one concern for him as a guard is that he probably isn't going to be a great three-point shooter. 35% on 3.5 attempts is basically average, though only 56% of his threes are assisted, meaning he takes a lot off the dribble, so he might actually be alright. He's only 21, so there's certainly room for him to grow, but so far he has not shown signs of being an elite shooter. And then looking at the picks that they got back, the Thunder got back 5 first-round picks. A swap in 2025 and an unprotected in 2024 and 2026, which could turn into something quite substantial. If Kawhi and PG leave the Clippers when Kawhi is done with his 4-year deal, there's even a chance that he leaves by year 2, as he has a 2-year option he can opt out of. Those unprotected firsts could actually really come back to bite the Clippers in the ass because they could really be something nice. If Kawhi does not get them a ring and he eventually leaves, there's going to be some pretty high lottery picks that the Clippers are not going to have. And even for the earlier picks coming in the next few years, even though they have some questionable draft history, you have to imagine OKC hits on at least one of them. Also, Danilo Gallinari is a really good offensive player who's been an integral part of the surprising OKC Thunder. He's also, unrelated, the NBA player who I compare my game most to. But that is the Paul George / Victor Oladipo / Domantas Sabonis trade revisited. The Pacers got back 2 all-star caliber players, and OKC ended up getting a young star in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, as well as multiple draft assets that you can only imagine turn into something good. That's the end of this video. Please be sure to like and subscribe for more NBA content like this, and cue the outro music.